Hi, welcome to this Kickstarter preview for a brand new game. It was published in 2018 and now it's in the second edition on Kickstarter, Barbarians The Invasion. Barbarians The Invasion is a real robust Euro game which blends in a great and efficient way the worker placement mechanism with area control and all the modern aspects you would expect from a board game in 2019. This is a game that really is well thought. You'll see what I mean when you get to see the rules of how the game plays. Hopefully you're gonna get a real good understanding on the rules, how you can set up the game, how you can play it, and what you can get out of it, and really find out if this game is for you. Spoilers alert, I really enjoyed the game, so stay tuned after the rules explanation for my opinion and why I think you should really get this game now. So come and join me. Enter the mysterious world of Thunmar, a place where barbarian clans rule wildlands and corrupted civilizations live in decaying cities. A place filled with powers gifted by ancient gods and treacherous demons. Become a warlord and lead your clan on conquest of civilized nations. Take their lands and steal the precious riches. You'll need a strong economy and even stronger army to fulfill your goals. You'll have to manage resources and construct various buildings, but you'll be able to summon the power of ancient gods and demons to gain temporary magical boosts and benefits. Only the strongest clan will prevail on the path to glory, leaving its mark in the pages of the book of history. So let's start with the game. First of all, don't hesitate with the complexity of how this game looks. Meaning there are a lot of things on the board, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of elements, but after a couple of turns you'll figure out that the game is not difficult to master, yet it has a lot of depth, lots of strategic options. And that's what we like about Barbarians The Invasion, and we're really happy to see it on the second edition on Kickstarter. Okay, so let's dive right away into the setup of the game. First, we place a game board in the center of the table. Each cardboard ring is divided into sectors. We position each ring randomly in such a way so that each sector is linked with two sectors of the successive ring. Then each cardboard ring is divided into spaces. We position each ring randomly in such a way that each sector is linked to two sectors of the successive ring. The volcano's outmost piece is an exception, as it is only linked to two sectors of the previous ring. It's very simple and more simple than actually it sounds. You can see that there is this circle here. Actually, I can put it out so you can see how you make the volcano. When you set up this, you need to check that this lava divider here points south north, then you start like that, any of those, doesn't matter. Then the second ring you can see here, you need to align it so that each sector, let's say it's triangle from the first level, touches two different sectors of the second ring, like that. And then the last one, you can see that again, this lava divider, you don't have it here, you have it here. Again, this section, oops, you can see that it rotates very easily. This doesn't happen because I'm a bit in an angle, but you can see that you can easily rotate, the whole ring with no problem, no issue, even with one hand. Obviously, you can see that there are some champions on the levels. This is just for demonstration purpose. You start with no champions on any of the levels, and then you start positioning each player one by one, going downwards each time. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Next, we set up the warm-up. This is a different section. It's a different board, as you can see, that goes next to the main board. And this is a warm-up. Also, game comes with different warm-ups, so you can have variability. Then you place one first conquer token near each island's name. These are the square ones here at the top, there. You can see them like that, the square tokens. And you place randomly one. Actually, all they have the same value. They have value of 3. It's the first conqueror tokens, and you put one on each square. And then you place randomly one faction token in each region on the map, aside from the starting one. These are the ones with the circular tokens with the numbers depicted in it, and you randomly shuffle them face down, and you put one on each of these areas. So each area will have one of those faction tokens. Just with 3 players, return to the game box the faction tokens in the regions marked with 4. There are some printed I think on some of the spaces now. Okay, here's the 3+. And again, in a 2-player, return to the game box the faction tokens marked with 3+ and 4, so that the game is balanced and the map is balanced. Next, we sort the color 72 region cards into 4 decks. Each deck has a different color, as you can see, and different icons on the back. We'll see later what that means. We shuffle each deck and we place it face down, near the warm-up. The remaining of the cards are sorted, and we open some face-up cards on each of the different types. Here we can see the building deck. It's a big deck of cards, and we shuffle it quite a lot of shuffling because it's a big deck, and then we open the first 4 cards, meaning the first 4 buildings in a row, so that they are available for players to construct. Same happens with the warchief deck. This is another deck from the game. We shuffle it together, all the cards, and then we open 2 face-up cards from the warchief deck. Last but not least, you can see this is a gods deck. Again, there is a bit of shuffling there, and we open the 2 first from the deck face up, so that players can get those 2 gods to begin with. Each player chooses a clan and takes the corresponding player board, knowledge discs, color cubes, and color base rings. You also get your champion minis and the banner minis. You attach the colored rings to the mini bases. This goes both for champions and banners. And then you put your domination point marker, this is your color cube, at the start of the track on the edge of the game board, where you mark your dominant points, which actually indicate and translate into victory points. Each player then takes one of each type of both resource markers: food, wood, iron, stone, and gold. This is the resource markers, and troop miniatures: archer, berserker, and raider. And then you get to have 3 of each of the resource and 2 of each of the troops. You can see 3. We have, starting from the top, 3 food, 3 wood, 3 iron, 3 stone, 3 gold with the treasury chest, and then we have 2 of each of the troops. These are just markers. You move them around when you spend or acquire. When you spend, you move them down. When you acquire, you move them up. Same goes with the resources. And here you have the indicators for your different troops from left to right. You start with the archer, then you have the berserker, and then you have raider. Then you take the honor discs, randomly stack them on the starting space of the honor track. This track indicates the player's order of turn, and leading player on the track plays first, meaning the blue here is going to start, followed by the rest of the colored discs. In a case that 2 or more players are tied, meaning that at the start of the game they're stacked, at the start of the round they're stacked, that means the order goes from top to bottom. If a player catches up with another player by advancing to the same space on the honor track, they put their honor disc on the top of the rest, becoming the first player, so they're going to start independently as first. You see, this is the honor track that goes down and indicates the order of turn. Following, each player draws a random gold card from the deck and keeps it face up next to their player board. They immediately score the domination points equal to the amount indicated on the top right corner of the gold card. Here we can see the first one has 1 and the second one has 3. Each player then advances their domination point counter, their VP point counter essentially, by the amount indicated on the top right corner of their gold card, the one that they chose. The game offers an auction house variant for selecting the gold cards. We're not going to go through the details of this, you can find it in the rulebook obviously. We complete the setup by starting from the last player, the one at the bottom of the disc stack on the honor track, and each player then they must choose to either place 1 knowledge disc in each leftmost space of 2 different knowledge tracks, or place 1 knowledge disc in the second space of a single knowledge track. This happens only during setup. Players cannot place a disc in a track where another player is already present. During the game, this obviously does not apply. As you can see, we have the 2 knowledge sections on the right portion of the screen. Essentially, the top one, the bluish one, is a barbarian knowledge track, which has 4 tracks, and the bottom one, the yellow one, is a tactic knowledge, which has also 4 tracks. Just a small reminder, if you're playing with 2 players, then you take 3 champions of a non-playing clan and place them randomly on the volcano action spaces on one rink, starting from the top. Then you take 3 champions of the remaining non-player clan and place them on the volcano's action spaces opposite to the first non-playing champions. And then you take a 4th and last champion from only one of those 2 non-playing clans and place it on the external rink's action spaces. Simply, at the end of the phase 3 of each era, you move all of non-playing champions, the ones belonging not to the players but to the rest non-playing clans, 1 space, 1 action space, clockwise. Just a small reminder, if you're playing with 2 players, then you take 3 champions of a non-playing clan and place them randomly on the volcano action spaces on one rink, starting from the top. Then you take 3 champions of the remaining non-player clan and place them on the volcano's action spaces opposite to the first non-playing champions. And then you take a 4th and last champion from only one of those 2 non-playing clans and place it on the external rink's action spaces. Simply, at the end of the phase 3 of each era, you move all of non-playing champions, the ones belonging not to the players but to the rest non-playing clans, 1 space, 1 action space, clockwise. So let's move to the gameplay. A game of Barbarians The Invasion is divided into eras. Each era is divided into 3 phases. Phase 1, the maintenance, Phase 2, the action, and Phase 3, the end of an era. A game may last a maximum of 6 eras, then it ends. For other ways to end, the game will have different conditions that we're going to investigate later on. Let's start with the first phase, Phase 1, maintenance. So we have Phase 1, which is the maintenance, and this phase is kept only in the first era of the game. Each player restores their activated god and warchief cards by flipping them upright if they were sideways. Here this god is going to be flipped upwards, and the same goes for this warchief. Regardless of how many you have, if you have used them during the previous round, then you reactivate them. Actually, you make them readily available by turning them upright. Then each player gains the resources indicated on their buildings, the ones that they have constructed in front of them. You can activate each building only once per maintenance phase, and the number of buildings you can activate corresponds to your progress on the production track. This is a barbarian knowledge that we've seen before. For example, this player, the blue player, has 2 buildings, so he can activate 2 buildings essentially for production, but he has only 1 production knowledge on the corresponding track for the buildings. This is the track on the bottom. He has only 1 as indicated here. Therefore, he has to choose one of the 2 buildings available to him in order for it to produce resources, and the other one is not going to produce any resources for him. Next we move to Phase 2, which is the action phase, where players actually do take turns following their order on the honor track, and during your turn you place one of your champions on any unoccupied action space of the volcano. You may perform immediately the depicted action. Players alternate to place champions and resolve actions until they have no more champions to place. Action spaces are marked with the reddish outline, and actually they look something like that. Here, for example, this is an action space, this is another action space, and this is another action space. We're going to come back to this, but the previous rink, you have your champion here, so you can either place it here or here. More of this in a bit. So let's talk about allowed placements. If this is your first champion, you place it on any action space of the central ring, meaning you take it and you can choose any one of the top to put your champion and take the depicted action. That's the one your champion is sitting on. If this is your second champion, you place it on an action space of the intermediate ring, but only in one of the 2 sectors directly linked to the sector hosting your first champion. Therefore, you can obviously see that your first champion is sitting here, and he has access to 2 sectors, one with 2 action spots here and another with 2 action spots here. It is easy to distinguish the different sectors because they have this lava wall. So this sector here has 1, 2 action spaces, and this sector has 1 and 2. Therefore, our guy here decides to either go to this sector or that sector. Let's say he goes here and takes this action. Now, if it is your third champion, place it on an action space of the external ring, but only in one of the 2 sectors directly linked to the sector hosting your second champion. So this guy here has access to this sector with 2 action spots or this sector with 2 action spots. So he can decide, let's say, to take this action and place his worker here. Keep in mind that some effects may allow you to place a 4th champion exceptionally, and then you place your 4th champion on an action space of one of the outmost sectors directly linked to the sector hosting your 3rd champion. Here our guy has access to those 2 spots. This is one sector. So let's say he takes either that or that action. He takes that action. It is important to remember that in the rare case that you cannot place your champion due to a lack of free action spaces, you skip your turn and gain 2 domination points, 2 VPs. So since here we made a row, so in order to avoid confusion, I'm gonna make another option. So from here I can take this one, then from there I can take that one, and from there I can take, say, that one. Again, this is a legit movement on 4 consequent turns. Then you can pray to a god or sacrifice a warchief. During your turn, before or after placing a champion on the volcano, you may decide to either pray to one of your gods, the ones that you have acquired obviously, or to sacrifice one of your warchiefs. You cannot do both, nor do one more than once. So you pray to a god, you activate a god obviously by flipping their card to the side, sideways, and then you immediately resolve the effect depicted on the bottom of the card. Then you can also choose not to do praying to a god, or if you can decide to sacrifice a warchief, then you discard one warchief card to immediately resolve the effect depicted on the bottom right of the card. Then you discard the warchief card to the bottom of the warchief deck. You cannot sacrifice an activated warchief. Warchiefs may be activated during war action, and we're going to see them later on. I remind you that this is a display, but we have warchief cards on the left, and top left that is, and god cards on the top right. So let's have a look on the action spaces. First of all, we have resource spaces and others. Keep track of your resources by moving the resource marker left or right, depending if you acquire or you spend. Remember, we have from top to bottom food, wood, iron, stone and gold. You can immediately see the same icons that you have on your player board tracks on the volcano. So if, say, you come with your champion here, you're going to get 1 food, 1 wood and 1 stone. So essentially you're going to move all those 3 resources up 1 on your respective tracks on your player board. You can see that there are different combinations. For example, you can have 4 stone here, or you can have 4 food here, and so on and so forth. Also, you can have combinations of resources with different things, like this spot here, where you can get 2 food and you move your marker 1 up on the honor track, where you track the order for the player turn order. Also, you can have this symbol, which is upside down here, but you can get from here 1 gold, 1 stone, and the battle axe indicates the dominance points. So you move your dominance points, your VP points essentially, up 1 plus 1. So we're not going to go through all the different combinations. Obviously, you understand that the different symbols indicate that for each symbol you take that amount of respective resource or the combination of those respectively. Okay, given the opportunity with the example with the 2 resources and the honor track, you have milestones. Whenever your honor marker advances past a milestone, the milestones are the triangles you can see here with the yellow line. So when your marker passes this yellow line for the first time, you immediately gain the indicated bonus. The bonus can still be gained by other players. It's not consumed, so it's not only for you, but you need to remember that you have passed this milestone, so you cannot claim it if for some reason your honor goes back. So when I get 1 honor, I get nothing. When I get 2, I pass for the first time this yellow milestone, so I get the bonus, which is here 3 resources: 1 stone, 1 food, and 1 iron, 1 food, and 1 wood. And in order to indicate that I have passed this resource, I take my blue cube and I put it next to this milestone, meaning that I will not be able to get it again. Keep in mind that these are pre-printed, but you have also tokens where you can mix and match, so you can have a different variability on the bonuses of the milestones. Next you have the erect a building spot, which is actually this one. So when you place your champion on such a spot, you activate the erect a building action. So you choose one of the building cards from the display, and then you spend the resources indicated on the top left corner. You place the building card you acquired in front of you face up, and keep in mind that you may have up to 4 building cards at the same time. If you're about to get another, you must immediately discard one to the bottom of the building deck in order to get a new one. On the display area, acquire cards, empty spaces. Those spaces are not refilled until the end of the era. Building cards can still be obtained by other means. So for example, if I had gained the action to erect a building and I wanted the last one in the row from the display, I would have to expend the top left resources that are required. In this case, I need to spend 1 wood and 2 stone. I move my trucks, respective trucks, expending those resources, and then I take this card and put it in front of me next to my player board. This building now is mine. I can have up to 4. Next possible action is invoke a god or invoke a warchief. You can see that these spots look like that. So if, say, I was about to get one of those spots, I would put my champion on top of this action, and then I could, for example, do any of the 2. So let's say I invoke a warchief. I choose one of the warchief cards from the display and pay 2 gold as indicated on the top left corner. Then I immediately gain the honor indicated on the top right corner, and I put the warchief card face up in front of me. I may have up to 3 warchief cards at the same time. If I'm about to get a 4th one, I first need to immediately discard one to the bottom of the warchief deck. Instead of invoking a warchief, I can decide with the same symbol, the same action spot, to invoke a god. This is either a warchief or a god. If I invoke a god, I choose one of the god cards from the display and I spend 1 resource of my choice as indicated on the top left corner. You have 1 and you can see all the resources indicated around the number 1 on the top left. Then I immediately score the domination points indicated on the top right corner of the card. I place the god card face up in front of me, and again I can have up to 3 god cards at the same time. If I'm about to get a 4th card, you imagine what happens. I need to first discard the 4th one, the one of my 3, to get one in its place. The discarded one goes at the bottom of the god card. In both cases, the display area has acquired warchiefs and gods, god cards and warchief cards. If during the era any player gets any of those cards, these spots are left unfilled and they are only refilled at the end of the era. Again, both god and warchief cards can be obtained by other means. Another option on the volcano action spot is obviously the war. I can decide to go to war by picking this action here, the red one, and putting my champion on top of it. Before engaging in a war, which consists of a series of battles, you may recruit troops. Troops can only be recruited during the first step of a war action. In order to recruit 1 unit of a type of troop, you spend the amount of resources indicated below that specific troop type. You can see it on your player board in front of you. For example, here the yellow player can decide to expend 1 food and 1 wood in order to acquire 1 archer by moving the archer 1 on the truck. Now they have 4 archers in their army, and then he can decide to expend, for example, 2 stone and 2 iron, 1, 2, 1, 2, in order to get 2 berserkers, and they move the berserker indicator 2 spots, and again they have 4. Keep in mind that the back of the region cards, here the green ones on the top, show the types of troop required for the upcoming battles. All cards of the same region type require the same kind of troops. For example, to fight in a forest region you need both berserkers and archers, but archers are more necessary than berserkers, as indicated by the bigger icon on the top of the card. Here are the cards for this specific type of region, the forest. After recruitment, you may declare war on the region you wish to conquer. To attack a region, the following conditions need to be met. First of all, the region must be adjacent to the starting region or to a region that was already conquered by any player, not necessarily by you. The starting region in a region of warmup is the one with a volcano depicted on it. This map doesn't have a volcano, but other maps may do. The region has still a faction token on it, meaning that I need to either go here, here or here if I wanted to, because there are faction tokens on them. I cannot go and conquer another area where a banner of an opponent clan is there. We are barbarians, we want to expand and conquer different areas on the map of the decaying civilized cities, but we do not declare war upon each other. Note that the different islands, different regions have names, that they start from a letter. This is Agareror, the top one, you cannot see it, is Fenian, the one here is Bergbora, etc. So your discovery knowledge must be sufficient to travel to the island where that region is located. Here you can see the knowledge barbarian track, the one on the top with the sailboat. So if your marker is not on sea, you cannot go to the sea island, Cyruth in this example. Once you have determined the region you want to attack, you will need to draw region cards from the corresponding deck. For example, here I will draw cards from the forest deck because this area, this region is forest. That means the green deck. Each card represents a battle, and the total number of battles you face is determined by the progress of your tactical knowledge associated with this faction present on that region. Here, the faction located on this forest has this symbol. Keep in mind, if I have no tactical knowledge of this faction, this is the symbol we were looking before, so if I'm the blue and my disc was here, I will need to draw 6 battle cards. I will face 6 battles. Each kind of region card depicts which types of troops and how many you need to employ in order to win a battle. By spending the required amount of troops, you will win the battle. But if I had moved all the way down, you see, number 2, I would draw 2 cards from this faction, indicating that I know these people, I know this tribe, I know how they fight, and I know how to attack them more efficiently and win them easier on the battlefield. Summoning a warchief. Instead of spending troops from your player board, you may activate a warchief card. Then you flip it sideways. Then you employ the troops indicated in the bottom left corner of the warchief card. You can summon more than one warchief card during the same battle, but each warchief can be summoned only once per era. You will refresh them at the end of the era when you start for the next one. If you don't want to or cannot spend the troops required to win the battle, either from your warchiefs or from your troops, from your player board, by moving the respective troops down on your tracks, then you immediately lose the battle and suffer a penalty. The applied penalty depends on the faction you're facing. So let's see the penalties, starting from top to bottom. The red one, then the friar. The penalty is you pay 1 troop of any kind and lose 1 domination point. If you cannot pay a troop, you lose 1 additional domination point. The second one is the purple, the shan. You pay 1 stone and 1 gold. For each resource you cannot pay, you lose 1 domination point. You can go below 0 domination points, below 0 PPs. The third one is the blue, turquoise, the Aspidians. You lose 2 honor. If your honor marker is at 0, you lose 1 domination point for each step backwards you cannot take. And the last one, the grey one at the bottom, the fourth one, these are the Varg. You flip sideways 2 cards, either God and or warchief cards. For each card you cannot flip, you lose 1 domination point. If you have advanced on the defense knowledge track, you may avoid taking 1 penalty. This is one of the bonus. Okay, so let's see an example. Say in our previous case where I was fighting this clan in order to gain access to conquer this region. Then I would need to draw that many battle cards, depending on how far I have progressed on my knowledge on the tactics for this specific faction. Remember, I was all the way down to 2, meaning that I would draw 2 cards. So from that specific region deck, this faction was sitting on a forest. I would draw 1, 2 cards. Okay, I would need to resolve them, and meaning I would need to first finish with the first one. I draw the first one and I resolve it. That requires to spend 2 berserkers in order to win this first battle. So I would move my berserker 1 and 1, 2. Okay, you're looking on this card. Some cards have rewards, meaning that I would gain 1 stone here on the bottom left of the card of the battle. Some are also cards indicate the overkill, meaning you can decide if you want to spend additional troops depicted on red, highlighted on red, here in this case 1 additional berserker, in order to gain immediately these victory points. So I have already won this battle, but if I want to decide to spend 1 more berserker, meaning I can expend my last one, then I would immediately gain 3 domination points, 3 victory points, because it's indicated on the bottom right of the battle card. Then I would proceed with the second card. I try to resolve it. This one needs 3 archers. I have them, 1, 2, 3, and I win this battle as well. But unfortunately, I don't have 1 additional archer and 1 additional berserker in order to gain 7 victory points on top of that. Once you have faced all the battles, there are 2 possible outcomes. If you won at least half of the battles, rounded up, then you conquer the region. You claim the faction token of the region and put it in front of you. In this case here, remember I was attacking this forest region where this clan was sitting. I won, it's the first option, I won at least half of the battles round up. I won 2 out of 2 in this case. That means I take this faction token, put it in front of me, and I put my banner on top of this area, meaning that I have conquered this area for my clan. You immediately score domination points equal to the number indicated on the faction token you eliminated, here 2, plus any additional ones from this specific island. So all these regions will award 1 domination point plus the number that you eliminate from the faction token. In this case, 1 plus 2, 3. If you're the first player to conquer a region on that island, you also take the first conquest token of that island to score 3 additional domination points. Here obviously we had already 2 banners from the red player, but if they didn't come here and I was taking the first blue region, I would also gain on top of the additional victory points the 3 extra ones, that the only one that they go to the first player that conquers any region on the island for the first time. If you did not win at least half of the battles round up, you do not conquer the region, however you still gain the rewards for the battles you won. You can conquer a maximum of 8 regions per game. Another spot on the volcano, another action possible for the players to take, are the symbols with the knowledge tracks. For each symbol on the respective knowledge, barbarian knowledge or tactical knowledge track, you gain 1 movement on the respective track. So these are these symbols here, the 2 yellowish papyrus or the bluish papyrus. Respectively, the yellowish correspond to the knowledge for the factions. That means how well you know the different factions when you fight them, I've seen before. And the bluish one has to do with the specific top tracks, the 4 blue top tracks for the barbarian knowledge. The barbarian knowledge track, this one, brings useful improvements to different aspects of your clan, and the tactical knowledge, that one, allows you to conquer faction tokens with less effort, meaning you draw less battle cards to face. So let's have a closer look on the barbarian knowledge tracks. The first one is a discovery track. I'm talking about the first one with the sail, the first row. So the first one is the discovery track. This track extends the range of regions you can attack. If you have never advanced on the discovery knowledge track, you can attack only regions on the starting area. On the warm-up, the island name starts with one of the 4 letters, A, B, C or D, so it is easy to track. For example, the green disc here is sitting on the B, meaning they can attack up to B regions, up to B islands. When your disc is on the first space of this track, A, you may also attack regions on the island whose name begins with the letter A. The second space lets you access the island whose name begins with B, and so on, so forth, so on. So the first player who reaches the last space of this track immediately scores 2 domination points for each faction token they have collected so far. That's why that's here. That's why you collect those domination, those faction tokens when you win the wars, the respective wars. Obviously, the second player who reaches this track, the last space of this track, they score 1 victory point for all their faction tokens they have collected so far. The second track, the one on the second row, the one with the wooden shield, is a defense track. This track allows you to avoid penalties from losing a battle. You can only avoid one penalty during a single war, and you can decide when to avoid that penalty based on where your disc is. For example, if you are in the first place on the defense track, you can avoid this penalty only for the first battle. If you're in the second space, you can avoid the penalty only for either one of the 2 first battles, and so on and so forth. The bonus: the first player who reaches the last space of this track immediately scores 2 domination points for each milestone they have passed. And the second player gets only 1, respectively. The third track is the economy track. For every advancement on this track, you gain more resources when you perform resource-related actions on the volcano. If you're on the track's first space, gain 1 additional food every time you gain at least 1 food from an action. If you're on the second space, also gain 1 additional wood every time you gain at least 1 wood from an action. If you're on the third space, the third step, you also gain 1 additional iron. And every time you gain at least 1 iron from an action, if you're on the last step, also gain 1 additional stone every time you gain at least 1 stone from that action. The bonus: the first player who reaches the last space on this track immediately scores 2 domination points for each triplet of food, wood and iron they have. Then it's the last and fourth action on the Barbarian Knowledge, which is the production track, and for every advancement on this track you can activate different buildings during the maintenance phase. If you're on the first space, you can activate only 1 building card during the maintenance phase. If you're on the second space, you can activate 2 different building cards during that phase, and so on, so forth. The bonus: the first player who reaches the last space of this track immediately scores 2 domination points for each building card in front of them, and the second player only 1, respectively. Then we have the bottom 4 tracks, the tactical knowledge tracks. Each tactical knowledge track is related to one of the 4 factions and works in the same way, except for the bonus for reaching the last space. For every advancement on these tracks, you reduce the number of battles you have to fight in a war against this specific faction. If you declare a war on a particular faction where you don't have a disc on the corresponding tactical knowledge track, you will fight a total of 6 battles. For the bonus, the first player who reaches the last space of the first Nefriar faction track immediately scores 3 domination points and recruits 3 troops of their choice. You can see that here. Then the bonus for the Shan faction, the purple one, is that the first player who reaches the last space immediately scores 3 victory points, 3 domination points that is, and gains 4 resources of their choice. The first player who reaches the last space of the third faction, the turquoise, the Aspidian, they immediately score 3 domination points and advances 2 spaces on the honor track. That's why they have these 2 honor track symbols here. The last row is the Varg faction, and the bonus for this one is that the player who reaches the last step, they immediately score 3 domination points and draw the top card from either the god deck or the warchief deck without paying the cost. The second player who reaches the track's last space chooses either one of the 2 bonus. This applies for all the tactical knowledge tracks. Okay, let's see some additional action spots on the volcano. We have the ×2. On your next turn, you may perform twice the effect of the action space where you placed your next champion. This is that symbol here, when you put a champion here. I cannot put it here, let's say I was coming here. That's a legit movement. The spot on the left, which is this one, when you put your champion here, during this era you may place a 4th champion on the utmost rink of the volcano. The 4th champion is not immediately placed when unlocked. After all players have placed their 3rd champion, those who unlock the 4th proceed on the next round of play to place the 4th champion. So this one gives you access to the outer rim here, so you can have another champion on the 4th level. Then we can have some trade actions, for example this one here. When you place your champion there, you can spend 2 gold to perform a war action. If you win the war, double the domination points on the faction token you gain. Or the one on the left here, you can spend 2 stone to gain 3 troops of your choice. The one in the middle of our screen, we're seeing it from the opposite side of the volcano. This is showing from right to left instead from left to right. But what you do is you spend 2 iron to immediately draw and play the top card of either the warchief or the god deck without paying the cost. This one here, again we're seeing it from the opposite side of the volcano. It allows you to spend immediately 2 wood to draw and play the top cards from the building deck without paying its cost. And the last trade action is the one you see here in front of you, where you spend 2 food to advance 1 space on both the barbarian knowledge track and the tactical knowledge track, and also you gain 1 honor. Keep in mind that when we play, each player takes a turn placing a champion, taking corresponding action, then the next player clockwise is taking their champion, putting it on the spot and doing an action. So again, player plays a champion, takes an action, next player plays a second, his first champion takes an action, and so on, so forth. So when all of the action phases are done and no player has any champion to place, then we proceed with phase 3, the end of an era. What we do is we recover all champions from the volcano. Following turn order, each player resolves the effect of the leftmost space card of the timeline, the ones that you can see on the bottom here, starting from the left. This can be either a feast or a demon. Feast cards look like that, and demon cards look like that. Okay. So the resolve card is then flipped face down. After we finish with this one, we're going to flip it facing down. Okay. We discard all the buildings, god and warchief cards from the display, the ones that they were not acquired from players. They go to the bottom of their respective decks, and then we reveal 4 new building cards, 2 new god cards and 2 new warchief cards, so that they are available for the next era. Following, we resolve the final event depicted right below the resolved feast or demon card, and then we begin the next era. So we have either feast cards or demon cards. Let's start with the feast cards. Okay, let's see the feast cards. Following turn order, every player may offer some of the resources to feast and celebrate. You choose one of the 2 possible offerings and pay the amount of resources required, gaining respective domination points. So in this case, you can either select to pay 1 food, 1 wood and 1 iron to gain 4 VPs, or 1 food, 1 wood, 1 iron, 1 stone and 1 gold to gain 9 VPs. If you don't participate in the feast, then you decide to only take 1 stone and 1 gold as depicted on the card. How do demon cards work? Demon cards are powerful entities that will ask of you to pay a price in order to please them. First players must choose to pay 1 gold or they lose 5 domination points. This is depicted here on the top left of the card. The art is amazing, by the way. Then, following turn order, players may offer a higher tribute to gain a powerful advantage. Every demon has a different bargain. For example, this one, you can decide to pay 4 resources in order to gain either 2 advancements on the tactical or the barbarian knowledge track, respectively. The last thing is that you can see below its card slot that there is an icon. What happens is you rotate the highlighted volcano rink by 1 or 2 steps in the direction indicated on the board. So for this, after this feast, the first one, the one highlighted is the one in the middle, and what will happen is you're going to rotate it towards this direction 2 times. After this event, you're going to rotate those 2 respective rings 1 time towards the other direction. The 6th final event of the timeline is a chance for each player to perform a last war action before ending the game. Players may decide not to perform this last war action if they wish to. You do not need to place a champion to perform this action. Follow all the standard rules that apply for war. So how the game ends? A game of Barbarians The Invasion can end in 3 different ways. At the end of the 6th era, after the round of war action triggered by the 6th final event, or when a player reaches 100 domination points, keep playing until the end of that era and then they resolve the final 6th final event instead of the one corresponding to the specific era you're on. If you're on the 5th, you resolve the one on the 6th, that means. Or the third option is when all faction tokens from the warm-up are collected. Keep playing until the end of that era, but do not resolve the corresponding final event. Then we proceed with final scoring. There are 2 different sources for VPs, domination points, in Barbarians The Invasion. One is the building scoring and one is the banner scoring. First of all, the buildings. You score 2 domination points for each faction token you collected. You score 2 domination points for each different type of building you erected. You score 2 domination points for each barbarian tactical knowledge track where your disc reached the last base. You score 2 domination points for each god card in front of you, or you score 2 domination points for each leftover resource you have according to this specific type. You see the buildings on the top. The third one in the row, for example, at the bottom of the building card, it shows that it gives 2 domination points for every food. Then we proceed with banner scoring. Each player scores domination points for each group of regions they conquered. A group is formed by adjacent regions conquered by the same player. Regions linked overseas count as adjacent. So you want to have many regions close together, next to each other, in order to score more points. For each group, for each region in a group, you score different points. So if you made a group of 1 region, meaning only one area, you score 0 points. If you made a group of 2 regions, you score 1 point. With 3 regions, 4 points. With 4 regions in a group, 9 points. With 5, 16. With 6, 25. With 7, 36. And if you manage to make a region, a group with 8 regions, then you score 49 points. The player who has the most domination points at the end of the final scoring is the winner of the game. And if you get to tie with another player, then the player who is first ahead on the honor track wins this session. Okay, so here we are. Hopefully by now you have a real good understanding on how the game works and can tell for yourself if this game is for you or not. Let's start with why I really like the game and why I'm pumped about it. I'm very excited about the 3D element of the volcano and how the worker placement conception is really blending the mechanisms of the game. Very well thought and very well done. It's very innovative how you can really take a very well known and used mechanism like worker placement and really infuse some awesomeness into it with the 3D aspect of the volcano. I really like how you start from the top of the layer, the top level of the volcano, and then you can decide, depending even from your first position of your first champion, which paths unlock for you. You can see even in your mind that you have some paths highlighted and some options are eliminated and you have only different options every time. Very, very well thought how you can really need to to anticipate the movements and the selections of your opponent and what to go for, how you will be able to readjust your plans on the fly. Very well thought how all the worker placement spots really give you the fuel you need to make your engine work. This is an engine building game where you construct your buildings. You have to make resources so that you can take resources out of your buildings, fuel your army, make more troops so you can go out and go on the warm-up and really conquer areas to give you victory points, which this is the essential target of the focus of your attempts in Barbarians The Invasion. This attempt to make a very hybrid modern Euro game which takes real well thought mechanisms that work in other games as well and blend it into something new, the infusion with the innovative part of the volcano, plus the area control, plus the stellar production. I mean, this game really is an eye candy. If you like Euro games, this is something you should definitely check out. You should really see how this plays for you and if it's good for you. But mainly, if you're into area control games, this game has a lot of things to offer. I'm very excited about the game and hopefully in this campaign they're going to be able to unlock more stuff because I really enjoyed the game. even from the first edition. In the second edition, I know they have some upgraded iconography. Some parts on the volcano are redone so that they can stand out easier, you know, to the eye when you take the worker placement spots with your champions. Also, some parts on the main board were redone. Not the background art because it was exceptional already, but you know, iconography mainly and charts and stuff like that. The maps are really well done, a lot of replayability, a solo option, a variant option, so many stuff in this game. The art on the cards is really amazing. I love every aspect of the aesthetics of the game, and I think you would agree with me with what you see already with in front of you from the pictures and the video that you have seen so far. This is a game that you enjoy playing and you also enjoy looking at it. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but this is with one stone you hit two birds here, and it's a, you know, a bargain in my opinion when you have games that they manage to accomplish this. So lots of thumbs up from my part for this game. I'm very happy about it. Looking forward to see what the campaign unlocks and if we get more cool and awesome stuff. Hopefully I gave you a real good understanding of how the game works and if this is something that will be interesting to you. Let me know in the comments below what you like, what you didn't like. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video or subscribe to our channel for more videos like that. This is a game to really look for. I'll put the link in the description in the Kickstarter, and trust me, I wouldn't spend so much time making this video because I made an extensive video to replace the rulebook if I didn't enjoy the game. This is a game to keep your eyes for. Check it out. This is Barbarians The Invasion.